Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. I'm Chris Garner, joined tonight with George Aldridge to give our review on Venom, which is arguably the biggest film of the week, I would say, at the moment. It's the latest superhero film. It's the standalone by Sony. It's not connected in any way, we don't think, to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Or the holy trinity of Spider-Man film.
Oh boy, we're going to get into that later. That might piss a lot of people off. This one is directed by Ruben Fleischer, director of Zombieland. And it's, of course, starring Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, and Riz Ahmed. General consensus on this movie hasn't been great, I'm not going to lie. And we'll probably echo that in our review.
I think from what I've heard, more people have liked it than critics. But I have quite a few opinions in regards to that. I think half the people that say they like it probably haven't really, they probably think it's funny. Like, you know how I like the Transformers films?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about people that.
It's like a kind of ironically funny kind of.
Oh, it's so funny because you said this. It's like these really edgy 13-year-olds at school that snuck into a 15.
Well, I actually think like when the dialogue, when those trailers came out and we had lines such as "like a turd in the wind," I think a lot of people were going back to the comic books and saying, "Well, Venom talks like that." These comic books were from the 90s, and it's a very 90s kind of juvenile humor.
This film.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I think they've got the basis of my thoughts. Should we give our thoughts? Sorry, I know I jumped ahead then. In regards to the original announcement of this Venom spin-off franchise starter, finisher, universe, whatnot, Sony.
So, in terms of my take on this, I mean, I don't know much about the Venom character outside of the fact that he's a symbiote and the whole Black Suit Spider-Man storyline, which was done to varying degrees of success in Spider-Man 3. I do love Spider-Man 3, but obviously a lot of people say that didn't hit the mark, and that's fair enough. Other than that, like the 90s animated kids show, I know Venom, and that's really all I knew. So when they announced a solo Venom movie, my opinion was and still is that, to me, the Venom character isn't interesting on his own. He's only interesting once you offset him with Spider-Man, and you can have that dynamic between the two. And I still stand by that. And now, obviously, Sony want to turn this into a whole thing. There's talks they want to do a Morbius movie. And to me, like, if you're not going to, like, blend, Spider-Man into it, what's the point in even doing these things? And that's just my take on it. That was my take back then, and it's still kind of my take now when it was first announced.
So mine was in regards to the history of Venom. I knew I don't know the comic series as such, but I knew the core principles and logistics of the character. If that makes sense. I knew, obviously, I watched the 90s Spider-Man show as well. I had Spider-Man 3, which I fucking love, which we will go into because there is so much to say, and there is no way of not comparing it, especially when you think that Sony demanded Venom be put into Spider-Man 3 at the last minutes when no one wanted him in Spider-Man 3, but Sony demanded they put him into Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, what is it with like Sony's raging hard on for the Venom character?
It's Avi Arad, the guy that Kevin Feige binned, that somehow still has Spider-Man rights, who single-handedly ruined Sam Raimi. He got.
Oh, yeah, he's top producer on this movie. Like,
yeah,
guys,
this is an Avi Arad film through and through.
Guys probably got like an underground dungeon like dedicated to Venom and like She-Venom and all that stuff, which we'll get into.
Venom anime.
Yeah,
Venom.
It's probably
fan fiction.
Thing. Yeah,
he's probably like the fan fiction guy that was actually allowed to like put it into a film. So basically, so when they announced the Venom film, I didn't like Spider-Man Homecoming, but Tom Hardy, who to me is one of the finest actors around, same guy that picks his projects very wisely, same guy that told the Suicide Squad to do one before filming because he read that script and despised it. And let's say 90% of his work is good. Like, he picks his projects wisely. He's good in them. He's not fussed about having to wear masks. He just picks the projects that he wants to do, which I completely respect. Normally, A-listers would be happy to wear a mask in a World War II film for like an hour because they want to see their entire face. Or Bane, which is another mask. Or Venom, another mask. You get the point. So when they announced it, I was like, okay. So Spider-Man's going to be it? No. So, okay. But I can live with a Venom film as such. Because they said from the get-go it's going to be rated R, it's going to be adult, it's going to be a Venom film, and it's going to star Tom Hardy. And I thought, you know what, like, I will give this a shot. And as the casting started getting in, Riz Ahmed came on board, Michelle Williams came on board, the Woody Harrelson came on board, which was publicly announced, and then it was publicly retracted, which we'll have to get into. There was quite a good cast there, I will say. And I thought that's a lot of talent for a spin-off film. And then when Homecoming came out last year, there was the amazing interview with Amy Pascal sat next to Kevin Feige when she turned around and says Venom's in the MCU, and he had his sound of silence moment where he just stared at her in disbelief for about 10 seconds. Then the reports came through that Tom Holland filmed a cameo, and that, you know, Tom Holland, like Kevin Feige basically would have the final say on if Tom Holland get into the cut. Which was like, I understand that, smart business. If it's good, he's in it. If he's bad, it's not. And then it all changed in like August last year when I don't read leaked scripts or whatever stuff like that. However, a very detailed Venom leak came online that everyone was talking about, and I just heard these awful things, and I just read it, and I sat there and I said, this is one of the worst things I think I've ever seen. He was going to be Venom for 10 minutes. It was going to be this chase, this set piece, this. And I kind of like laughed it off and like brushed it aside. And then the first trailer came out where Venom wasn't in it. I was like, oh, that's fine. It's a teaser. I couldn't care less. And then the main trailer came out and everything from the set video was in it. And I thought, oh, sorry, from the set leak. And I just sat there and go, oh, no. Oh, no. How to switch somebody off in the click of a thing, well, sorry, in a 2-minute trailer was done then. Because at that point I realised that everything was true. Add in the then extra, and then this is like, what, March, February?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then more and more stuff's come out over the months since that, you know, there was major reshoots because Sony weren't impressed. You know, it went from being a rated R to a PG-13. They wanted it to kickstart a cinematic universe or whatever. More and more rubbish has found its way online in regards to this production. And then it all was waiting for was the critic reviews. But before the critic reviews, you have the golden mine of Tom Hardy saying, my favourite part of the film is the 40 minutes they cut.
I was just looking for that direct quote from the interview.
I mean, there's your marketing. The posters were nice, but the film was done and dusted. Like, I'm happy I read that report, or else I might have had a shred of hope going into this. But this was just rubbish. I can't believe what I sat through. I don't even know. Like, I mean, I described it to you what I thought. I mean, This is just my basic opinion. But this film is basically Tom Hardy thinks like Tom Hardy's given it all his best, which is fair enough. He's being very weird, and like he's almost like he knows he's in like some kind of like comedy type thing, like a comedy trope. But then the crew and the director and the producers think that it's like a really like dark, like tonally like moving dramatic piece, whereas Tom Hardy knows it's like a shit comedy. That's basically the entirety of the film.
This movie was just bad. It was just plain bad. If I'm gonna rank this, a lot of people have been harsh, like incredibly harsh on it, and I'm probably about to be, but I said this to you before we hit record, it's not on the same caliber as like Catwoman or Fantastic or Justice League or things like that. It's fine. It's perfectly watchable, but just knowing what it originally was, and I feel like I say this again and again recently, just let the fucking filmmaker make the movie they originally set out to make. I hate this studio meddling. Warner Brothers are usually at the forefront for it, but, you know, Sony are just as bad recently. And, you know, I've got to take Tom Hardy's word for it. Like, he signed up to that. He filmed that R-rated version. And you can easily see in this film where things have been cut, things have been reshuffled. You can tell where the reshoots were. You can see scenes that were originally meant to be really violent and they've either digitally removed the blood or they cut away to a scene. This movie's rated a 15 in the UK, and it really has no need to be. I was, in fact, shocked when the movie started and it came up with that 15 certificate. There is nothing in this movie that doesn't warrant it just being a regular run-of-the-mill 12A, PG-13, and I think it is PG-13 in the US. Yeah, go on, sorry.
I feel like in regards to the rating over here, I feel like because they put a couple of swear words in, they made it a 15. That's all I feel it is, but you can tell these reshoots, they tried to make it really funny and like down with the kids. I think it's going to be like Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be some people that think this is great. I think some people are going to watch this film and think it's magnificent and that it's really edgy what they've watched, and there are going to be people that defend it through and through. But then I also feel there's going to be like the other 3/4 of the world that know what monstrosity this is, including the cast.
Yeah.
You know, Jared Leto, oh my God, the Joker's in it for 5 minutes. Well, Carnage was in it for 5 seconds, mate. Like, I don't know. It's just a mess, isn't it?
The biggest fault.
It's not like Justice League. I mean, I agree. I echo what you said. It's not a Fantastic. It's not Justice League, but it is Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I think that's my fairest comparison. It's really bad.
I think especially because we're in 2018 and we have had so many comic book movies. We've had so many great comic book movies. Like, for example, like this year, Infinity War. You know, to name just one of them. This feels like a step back to like the late 90s, early 2000s superhero movies where they were still very much finding their footing. It feels more akin to that, I would say. The fact that the studio went in with the shears and just cut this movie to hell and back, and also the fact that it feels really tonally inconsistent. I never got a sense of this movie knowing what its identity is, what it wanted to be. You've got some moments in the film that, as you said, are very, you know, darkly funny. There's moments where he's sitting in like a tank in like a posh restaurant, like a lobster tank, and he's eating raw stuff, and it's all, you know, pretty gross but pretty funny. And then you have moments which could be like a body horror film, like a Cronenberg The Fly, where you see this guy just, you know, degenerate into this horrible creature. And then obviously the violence on top of that. You could have had like a really hard-hitting movie. You could have had Eddie Brock, and I don't know much about his character in the comic books. I don't know if he's like, you know, an alcoholic or something.
What I can tell you is that in the comics, he's in New York, not San California. You know, the most iconic city for the Spider-Man and web-slinging character ever. Who the journalist who is working at the Daily Bugle is in California. But why?
There's one moment in the film, and I guess we'll save spoilers to the end. This is just a slight line. He says, like, I got a new job or something, and I was expecting him to say the Daily Bugle, and obviously...
It's going to be like the end of, like, The Hobbit, where he's, like, flying to the Ranger. It's like, I got an interview at this place called the Daily Bugle. Like, and then you could, like... I literally thought that's what it was going to say.
Yeah.
Like, it was, like, the really cheery epilogue that he was going to make his way to New York.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he's stuck in California. I mean, he's in a. At least he's around, unlike Tom Holland, who's dust.
Well, I guess like if it takes, off, they can move him to New York if they really want to. But again, it's not going to tie in with Spider-Man, so there's not really any need at the moment, which just makes this movie seem all the more pointless. Really,
I would have paid. You know, in that Star Wars Episode 1 documentary where they're all sat at the theater at the Lucas Ranch watching it for the first time,
the look of horror on their face. Yeah,
I would have paid to have seen Kevin Feige watch, because he would have watched this cut, right? To give that opinion on the Tom Holland cameo. I would have paid to have watched him to have watched that.
Yeah.
Like, just him, and then like Amy Pascal turning around, so, do you want him in your universe? If this was a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, it'd be the worst one.
Oh. Thor the Dark World's pretty bad. Iron Man 2 is pretty bad.
Nah, Iron Man 2 has got more redeeming scenes.
Are there any other really, really bad ones?
No.
I don't know. I'd rank it. I'm just reading an interview here with the executive producer asking, like, is there an R-rated cut out there? And he says, like, there is no phantom version of this movie. Everyone is asking us, is there an R-rated cut sitting there? There isn't. And then the director then goes on to say that what I've said in the past is that I wanted to push the violence to the hilt. The Dark Knight was always a huge reference point for me personally, just as far as how you could take a PG-13. To compare this and the Dark Knight in the same sentence is just an absolute travesty.
So my favourite Dark Knight comparison, my favourite one is, so I wanted the Batman versus Superman film, and Chris Nolan told me that's a terrible idea, but I knew that he was playing devil's advocate. That's from Zack Snyder, obviously. That's my favorite ever Batman, like, Dark Knight comparison, that, like, he thought didn't tell you a bad idea was him, like, telling him to do it. It really wasn't.
Well, speaking of DC, this movie achieves the impossible. There's a line from Michelle Williams that says, "So this is like your kryptonite." So kryptonite exists in this universe, so therefore Superman exists in this universe, therefore uniting the families of DC and Marvel into one. Almost symbiotically, you might say.
This is when Disney like just buy DC now.
It's going to happen. One day it's going to happen. When they're in the pits after Aquaman and Shazam come out, like, they're going to need all the money they can, and Disney's going to have that money.
Or they'll just ask to buy the Wonder Woman rights and just carry on with the good thing. It's hard to talk about this one because it's just, there's nothing there. Like, there's paint by the numbers, but like we said, that late 90s feeling, that's, to me, like, Venom reminds me a bit of Deadpool, that he has this like horrific fan base that hype him up, but 90 of them don't actually know anything about the character.
Yeah. Like,
of course there's some out there, I don't mean disrespect to it. Like, if you read the comics, fair enough, you know, I'm like, I that's fine with me. And there will be fans that will actually know what they're on about. But there's going to be all these fans that can't know anything is really edgy. And you ask, why is it edgy? And they won't really have an answer. And they'll be like, well, because everybody else I know liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, Marvel's big enough where it's like everyone loves things within that. So that's too big now to sort of have that. But with, like, especially Deadpool, like Venom, like, there are a niche fan base out there for each of those characters, which is fine. This film wasn't made for you. Especially this one, because, you know, if this was a Venom film made for you, it would have had Spider-Man in it. There you go. He doesn't have the Spider-Man. I mean, like, of course he doesn't, because Spider-Man's not involved in this, but, like, the most iconic thing from Venom is he's in a black suit. He has weird eyes and a long tongue. And he has the Spider-Man logo that's white, and it looks nice. This was just like a black CGI mess. Do you know what it looked like? Have you ever seen Attack the Block, the film John Boyega was in?
Yes, yeah.
You know, like, because it was a low budget, right? They decided to have their characters, like the evil aliens, they had them in negative effects of pure black. This is what it reminded me of with the character of Venom. They tried to do something like that to try and be cheaper. It didn't work. It just looked
I preferred the look of Topher Grace's Venom.
I do as well. I would defend this. Is this a good time to move into talking about the Holy Trinity?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Right. So I sat there in the cinema, and during the origin scene of not Spider-Man 3, I've got a lot of thoughts on Spider-Man 3. This is the wrong review for that. I obviously. Oh, this is a spoiler. Are we going spoiler? Oh.
There's one thing I wanted to say before we get into spoiler free. It was
I might save my Spider-Man 3 thoughts for spoilers, because I'm going to be comparing the origins.
We'll do that for spoilers, definitely. What is Eddie Brock's character arc in this movie? What are his goals? When he starts off, he wants to unearth this evil corporation run by Riz Ahmed, which kind of inadvertently kind of gets him, you know, Michelle Williams leaves him. They were engaged. She leaves him because he kind of ruins her job, gets her fired. And then after that, once he gets the symbiote, what's he fighting for? Is he just still trying to take out this guy? Because if it's about let's say he wants to get back with Michelle Williams, and they kind of hint at that in the movie. I didn't buy this love story at all. These two had zero chemistry on the screen together. These were absolutely awful together. And the character that Michelle Williams plays, she's not like an endearing, she's not a nice character. Like, he tries to unearth this evil corporation, and then which gets her fired, and then immediately she leaves him. We find out later in the film they were engaged. Would you really dump someone over that when you're engaged and you're invested in this person? Like, I just didn't buy it. She's just not very nice. She rubs in Eddie's face that she's got a new partner and he's a doctor and he's really successful. So I didn't buy the love angle at all in this film. When they kept harping on that, like, I wasn't getting anything. If you then remove that from the equation, all it is some kind of like revenge plot against Riz Ahmed. And is that interesting for a movie that's just shy of 2 hours? And ultimately, the answer to that to me is no, it's not. So a huge integral character-driven part of this movie just falls flat for me.
Yeah, and that's the point. There is no story to go with it in regards to the character. It's exactly what, you know, the Riz Ahmed. He's so painfully.
He's so too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, yeah. I really like Riz. I think, to be fair to him, I mean, if anyone's seen Four Lions. Yeah. Probably more English people than Americans, because it's obviously British comedy. If anyone's seen that, he's very good in that. And he got a Nightcrawler. He was fantastic, and that was his sort of big American break. Rogue One put him out there. And, like, I mean, me and you both love Rogue One, but I love him because he felt fresh and new to the Star Wars universe as such. Like, He had like, you know, he was a nervous. He was like the pilot. He was really into the character. In this, he's basically, just why have I forgot his name? The guy from Tesla. He's basically Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He's this billionaire who's a bit shady, who wants to do space travel, and he doesn't really have any goals. And then that's spoilers.
We never get the sense of why he wants to do this. Why does he care about humanity so much that he wants to send people to a planet in order for the human race to continue? Is it a god complex? I kind of get that sense towards the end. It's not really a spoiler because
they try to do like an Interstellar remake, that we need to get all the humans and find the right planet. Like,
we need to colonize this planet with symbiotes on it.
It didn't. His character didn't make sense. He worked in regards to like being a dodgy businessman, but it's an awful two-dimensional villain. The supporting cast, there's nothing. You know, there's the guy from his work, like Riz Ahmed, I'm going to finish you, and the next day he gets sacked. He has to move away. His relationship ends. Like, well done. Like, we all saw that coming.
And then there's a time jump where we think
6 months
some stuff was probably cut out. I think we probably think that because we saw Fantastic, which did the 1 year. Was it 1 year or 2 year time?
It was a really weird one, wasn't it? Yeah. I think a 6 month time jump is a lot for a film, but to have to put it at the bottom of to have it as text.
Well, it cuts black, didn't it? It was a black screen, I think, and it just had 6 months later come up at the bottom. Yeah,
I think I always think like Dark Knight Rises. I know you dislike it, but it makes it abundantly clear when it's doing a time jump because the entire sets change.
The seasons changed, don't they?
Yeah, the seasons changed, right? And that works because that's implied. Well, not implied, but they don't have to tell you. They assume you know that. If you took away the 6 months later, it wouldn't have impacted this film. No. So I don't understand as to why it took them 6 months to do things, and then everything else happens inside like 12 hours or something. It didn't work. It was rubbish.
I'm going by Nicola's comment here, where she's put like how tame it was. It was trying to be a comedy instead of a dark movie, and the actual lack of Venom. I've been reflecting on this because my initial impression when I came out of it was that Venom wasn't in the movie enough. On reflection, I think he was probably in it the right amount for like a first movie, if this is going to be a series.
It took far too long to get into the origin.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I mean, not because Spider-Man wanted it in 10 minutes, but there's a good it's like what you said, you know, in regards to the plot and the villain details, that it happens like an hour in within a subplot.
We get a lot of repetition of shady Riz Ahmed testing symbiotes on people, and you only need to show that once. We get it, but it felt like it really outstayed its welcome a little bit.
Yeah, and just, you know, hurry up, like, you know, it didn't need. And the origin itself was rubbish. It wasn't worth the wait. It felt like any scene. Nothing happened in that scene that would have been specific to him turning into Venom. It's a coincidence. Sorry, coincidence is the wrong word because a lot of original coincidence. So, I mean, in Spider-Man 1, right, they show the spider drawing down the web, biting Peter Parker on their hands. Batman Begins shows the parents being killed, and all these origin films, they have journeys of these characters becoming the character. There is no hint of that at all within this Venom film. There's no hint of anything. And then he magically gets speared and it just goes into him.
Yeah.
But we've already seen it go into like 5 different people. It's not like you, the first symbiote, like what Spider-Man 3 did in regards to Peter Parker, then Eddie Brock. It's just passing it around until it finally works on someone. So obviously it's going to work on the main character. Yeah,
you remember that moment where the symbiote first takes over Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3, where it's like thundering and lightning outside, is sleeping on the bed. It is, well, again, Sam Raimi was a horror director, but it was almost done like a horror movie.
That amazing teaser trailer.
Yeah.
And like obviously we'll get to it when he turns into Venom in Spider-Man 3. Yeah, they're doing this. I bet that wasn't in the original. I bet the original scene was that scene happening without him turning into Venom.
Yeah,
because there's no movement as such in regards to a Venom sort of thing, is there? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just it felt like. I mean, I remember your description of Solo was a collection of moving images and sound. Which, I mean, I rewatched Solo last week. I still disagree.
Played somewhat in a coherent order, beginning to end.
That's what I feel like this is, but it's really dark filters and like it's got like that black.
Yeah, this is one of the ugliest films I have seen in a while. It's if you're going for like cinematography and stuff, it feels horrible. And again, some people might say that's the intention, you know, like
Venom is this
grimy character.
I haven't seen it yet. So this weekend, the box office 2 films are Venom and A Star Is Born. The cinematographer did both of those films, and they've come out on the same day.
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen Star Is Born yet, but I'm assuming that Star Is Born isn't just a black filter over the top.
No, that looks great. Like there are some genuinely beautiful shots.
I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that next week. But it's just like it just. There's nothing about it. If we were going to sit here and do battle brackets tomorrow, for like best moment in Spider-Man history, there's not going to be a single scene from this film in there. I think it's forgettable. I think I've seen it today, and this is why I can talk about things. I think in a week's time, I'd have forgotten 3/4 of the film.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to stand out looking forward. Someone comes and goes, "What's the best scene in Venom?" I'd have to sit there and think.
Yeah.
Because it's not that there's just not one. Just nothing happens.
And even when it does happen, like don't get me wrong, there are some moments where, like when he does become Venom, it's pretty cool to see Venom, like when he's running up skyscrapers, and it reminded me of playing Ultimate Spider-Man on PlayStation 2. That was pretty cool. But the very like I didn't get hyped, I didn't get overjoyed, you know, but it was cool to see some moments like that. But the action's really the action is awful. Let's talk about the action for a bit and like sort of the CGI as well. Obviously we get to the arbitrary CGI punch up at the end between Riot and Venom.
Is it a punch up? Or is it liquid off?
It's incomprehensible is what it is. I always say this, like when things are filmed very, very close and it's really chaotic, when you've got this inky black character that's made of liquid almost fighting this dark gray black ink liquid thing, and it's nighttime and there's a dark filter and they're moving so fast, I couldn't tell anything that was going on. I struggled to tell who was fighting who, like who I should be rooting for, because it was all literally just a splurge. I think I said it was like clashing 2 lava lamps together and seeing what came out of it. I just didn't care. Like usually, even if the film's bad, you can go, oh, at least like the final action scene was all right or somewhat entertaining. When you can't see what's going on, there's no point in seeing it. And I don't know if that's a case that you can't make Venom look cinematic. Like
it was like a worse version of Hulk versus Abomination.
Yeah,
but like that was actually, you can tell who's who in that.
Yeah,
but it just reminded me of, oh look, he's also now become one of them, and he's a bit bigger and he's a bit better. So let's going to see if the person the film's named after is going to beat him.
Just reading the comments. Is this a spoiler? The end. To be fair, the trailer even spoils the end of the movie. The end scene of the film is in the trailer. But what I didn't like was, and again, some person watching this could read the comic books and call me out on this, I didn't like the fact how they tried to make Venom a good guy towards the end of the movie.
He's not an anti-hero at all.
Yeah, I always thought he was a straight-up villain.
He's meant to be a villain, and he's been portrayed as the anti-hero in his series and whatnot. But he's not an anti-hero because his goals, we only kill. Sorry, how does Tom Hardy? He has like a New York like accent.
Yeah, he's like, from now on, we're only going to hurt bad people.
And bad people are really bad people who have guns or kill people. We don't touch the good guys. Like that's not how an anti-hero works. It just because they wanted to protect. They basically wanted him to be the good guy, but also be this edgy person to some some people that think they know the character. And
again, that's in the comments that there wasn't really any progression of Venom to get to that point. Like
no, he's still the same. He just wants to bite people's heads off.
Yeah, I think you said before we hit record, like you thought that was a reshot ending. It felt very much tacked on to kind of have Venom as that hero character, and that's my problem when you do.
I think that's the scene from like the middle of the film that they've just chucked at the end.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
But
I think that's the pitfall you're always going to fall into when you do these films where you have a villain, like a spin-off film where your villain is the main protagonist almost, and that's the problem. It's very difficult to have a film where the villain starts off as a complete son of a bitch and ends still being exactly the same character, because then there's no progression. If they're villainous at the beginning and villainous at the end, there's no growth, there's no point. you always have to keep crafting it into almost a hero. You see it with Maleficent, for example, the Angelina Jolie spin-off of Sleeping Beauty. Evil character in Sleeping Beauty. Like, if you watch that original animated film, she's just bad beginning to end, and it's great. But when you do a movie centered around her, you need to show some kind of progression. It's always going to be, oh, how did they become evil? Or you do the flip side, you show them being evil and becoming good by the end of the movie. And to me, that just takes away an integral part of what makes a villain a villain.
I know you hate Kylo. Well, no, you like Kylo Ren. So I know you don't like the new Disney. It's a weird comparison, but Kylo Ren, right? Mm-hmm. His character development in Episode 8. He has the option to redeem, and sorry, spoilers. He instead takes away from that, and then goes one over, and becomes more. And there's the progression of the character across that one film. Let alone both films. He has a character progression across that one film in 2.5 hours. And Venom, there's no progression. From the first minute he's on screen, he's the exact same as when he leaves it an hour and a half later. Yeah. Basically, if you don't like me, then I can just leave you, and you can die anyway. Yeah, it doesn't, and he just, it's just rubbish, mate. I didn't want it to be this, and it was. Like, I don't sit there and shout about studio politics like people. Oh my God, Warner Bros. Makes such bad films. Be more like Marvel. Mm-hmm. No, like DC, like, they should be more like Marvel. They should be themselves, but they should have took time in creating a universe. I don't want them to be Marvel. I want them to be DC, because DC is actually a better company.
And it just seems really underhanded to me as well that Sony are going to run this, well, they hope, run this parallel to the cinematic universe when they've already got Spider-Man in that. Now, does that mean that if we do carry on using Tom Holland as Spider-Man, if Sony do keep, like, lending the character out, are we not then going to be able to do the Venom story in those Spider-Man films because he's already been done in this? The villains they want to use, like Morbius or whoever they're going to do afterwards, will then they not be able to come over into the MCU?
Who is going to go to the cinema to watch a film called Morbius the Vampire?
It's a vampire movie. Twilight made a lot of money. Vampires are popular. They'll probably release it around October again, Halloween.
But you know what I mean?
Leto, people like him, apparently. They don't like him as the Joker, but...
Well, we've got Joaquin Phoenix now.
That's true.
Jared Leto's like you look at the history of the character Joker, like Jared Leto's that like blip on the shoulder that you can just like erase with a pencil. Like, only 4 minutes of screen time. It's all right, guys.
Here's me saying, like, I hate standalone villain films, but there's a
I kept thinking that. I was like, you can't have a Joker without Batman. I was like, well, we might be able to.
Well, again, you're going to start the Joker as a good guy and progress him into becoming the Joker. There's a progression there, but at least that's akin to...
There's going to be character... Yeah. There's a lot of... This is going to be very interesting when that comes out in a year, because it's going to be at the same time, right? October next year.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting, because I think there'll be a lot of comparisons to this. But Joker, again, I've said this one. It's a bit like Venom. I'm open to the idea and to see how they do it. And like this film, they've put together a good cast.
And like this movie, they could reshoot it to hell and back, it being Warner Brothers, and we could have the same situation as this.
So, like, we have fingers crossed for one of them. I think it will be okay. I don't think Joaquin would have took it otherwise. This is the wrong video, but there's going to be comparisons with this because, I mean, to me, Venom's not the most iconic Spider-Man villain at all. Joker is the Batman, so there's where that level crosses over. Like, to me, like, Green Goblin is the essential Batman. That's not Batman. Green Goblin is the essential Spider-Man villain. Then it's Doc Ock, and then I would say it's actually probably Kingpin, then Venom.
Yeah.
To me, that's who my ones are. Venom's fine, but I think he's massively overhyped and overrated. And I think this film has proved that he doesn't have the character arc, story, or strength to do a 2-hour film for.
Let alone carry his own goddamn franchise, which it seems like they want to. We should probably get into spoilers now, so I'll give my overall thoughts because I feel like I'm going round and round the houses on this one. It's not awful. It's totally watchable. If you're vaguely interested from the trailers or you like your superhero films, go and see it. It's fine. But it has no staying power. As you said, it's very forgettable. There's no character growth. There's nothing really overly flashy in there, even in terms of spectacle from a superhero movie. There's nothing there. It's a very ugly film. The music is awful, I would say. There's no...
Is there any music?
There is. It's mostly blends
Oh,
out.
there's the
background
Eminem
noise.
video.
Oh, that's felt very Suicide Squad-y to me.
Then. Who the fuck knows?
And there is a post-credit scene, which we'll talk about in spoilers. There's also an end-credit scene, but it's more an end scene from an upcoming Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which looks an infinitely better movie than this turned out to be. I won't go out of my way to watch this movie again, and it's a shame to me, and it's just testament to the case again. I really wish the studios would dial it back and not Frankenstein's monster their own films. Let the filmmaker make the movie he wants to make. If you greenlight an R-rated Venom movie, then have the balls to stay with that decision and see how it turns out. We've seen R-rated superhero films come out before with the likes of, you know, Deadpool most recently, and they're successful, and people go and see them, and people like them. They make a lot of money. Why couldn't this one have done that? And instead, you've changed it into this diluted down PG-13, nothingness that doesn't say anything, and it doesn't inspire. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on Venom, really. I guess. But yeah, if you want to move into spoilers now, this is your warning. If you haven't seen Venom and you do want to see it, go and watch it first.
I will give my final spoiler review.
Yes. Yeah.
Opinion that this is without doubt in the top 3 worst films I've seen this year. It's absolutely abysmal. I will not go back to this film again, probably ever. If they get to Venom 2, I won't need to rewatch the first one because nothing really happens, and I bet it won't tie into it as much. It was boring. Nothing really happened. The humor doesn't work. The violence, you can tell. I mean, you can just tell this film's tried to be violent and they've been told they can't. So they've had to tame down the violence. It's not even implied violence. For that guy to compare it to Dark Knight, he's on another planet because this shows 12A violence, which Dark Knight doesn't ever show the violence. That's why it's 12A. It's worse. It's an absolute waste of one of the best actors around today.
Squandered talent across the board. Michelle Williams, Riz Ahmed.
And if Tom Hardy has to turn down some like big stuff because his contract is obligated to do Venom 2, then the world is missing out. So, me personally, it is. You can sit down and watch it. It's fluid as such, but you know, there's a lot of better films out right now. Like literally, go to the cinema and watch something else. I think I might have got more enjoyment out of Mamma Mia 2. And that would have destroyed my childhood with Pierce Brosnan. So don't watch this. I paid to watch this film. That's my issue. There you go. Sometimes illegal things can benefit. I mean, good luck to those watching illegal anyway, because it's dark enough, and there's going to be some shitty camcorder copy over the top of that. It's going to be even darker. But yeah, waste of time. Don't go. Yeah.
So we're going to waste our time even more talking about spoilers of a movie that we didn't even care about now. We open with Jameson being name dropped. I liked that it actually paid reference to, you know, the comic book origin story. It's the origin story I really wished we could have got in Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi. It was teed up so nicely with the character being introduced in Spider-Man 2. But again, Sam Raimi didn't want to do, you know, Venom in Spider-Man 3. That was a last-minute decision. Maybe that had some involvement in it. So Jameson technically is in this universe, even if he's off screen and in the background somewhere.
Maybe he's an email attachment, like in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they were so scared of recasting him, they just didn't do it.
They didn't have the balls. No studio will have the balls while J.K. Simmons is still around and the memory of his character is still around. What else can I even talk about with spoilers for this thing? One thing I will say, which I did notice from the trailer, which made me laugh. So when the first trailer came out, the female scientist chick who you mentioned earlier from Parks and Rec, I don't know if that was before we hit record or if you mentioned it on this. In the original trailer, she said symbiote. And I remember a lot of people commenting, myself on my reaction video, saying, why did she say it wrong? It's symbiote. She's called it symbiote.
They've re-recorded it.
They'd re-recorded the line, and it's really noticeable. You can hear like where they've cut the audio out and like cross-faded it in with this like, it doesn't sound right. She goes like, there's a whole lab of these symbiotes here, and it like dips down and you can hear it, and they repeat it twice. I thought that was funny. So at least they did listen to fan criticism, I guess, with that. Yeah.
Spoilers. I mean, we're talking about the labs, so why not talk about the origin of Venom?
Yeah, so he kind of just gets jumped by a homeless lady.
He gets jumped by a homeless lady who doesn't intend to give the Venom powers to him, but does it anyway. And then he basically ran into the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 forest set, ran through the
I was thinking of Logan.
Yeah, I was going to move on. Then he ran through the Logan set as well. And this is going to be on par with the Tom Cruise running supercuts through his films. And then I swear there was another film recently, Infinity War Part 2, where he runs through the Infinity War forest set, and then he somehow ends up in bed back in California.
Yeah.
There's your Venom origin. Yeah, so homeless lady magically jumps on him after he opens the door and sets alarms off, but no one comes to check. And he was fine. He ate some frozen food.
Yeah, some gone-off chicken, which was
not that.
Yeah.
I mean, can you physically bite frozen foods? He did, and then he ate moldy chicken.
We get a Stan Lee cameo as well at some point during this, I think. Or is it at the end?
Right at the end. You can see the green screen. It's sad, but I mean, am I going to talk about it? It's time, isn't it? My Venom origin is this beautiful scene in a church bell tower where they built up the character of the symbiote for about an hour, and then through the power of music and through the power of Christ, the bell was ringing. Venom has to leave the body, and he drips down onto Topher Grace. Is without doubt one of the best, not just Spider-Man origin scenes ever, but just one of the best origin scenes I've ever seen. The Venom that we have for that brief 3 seconds is the best Venom that's ever been on screen. And most people's criticism of Topher Grace with Venom is that he's not strong enough, and the webbing on his head looks fake. And he wasn't. What is it? He's not tall enough, and his teeth aren't big enough.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys prefer a Venom that, well, isn't a character. It's not a character.
I will say some things. I've ragged on this movie. I will say some things that I liked, but they weren't developed enough for me. It's kind of what Alien is mentioned in the comments right now. I liked that they established some kind of kinship, hierarchy, civilization with the symbiotes. We get some lines where Venom's saying that, you know, Riot's more powerful, he's a leader, he has influence, I'm not powerful enough. So it did kind of hint to this alien world where they look up to leaders and stuff. But
then they immediately ruin it by saying, me, I'm a loser, like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's all we need to know about Riot, is that he's bigger and badder than you, Venom. And his goal is to send a rocket there to then send the rocket home.
I think
with a lot of other symbiotes on, and take over the Earth.
Yes, of course it's going to be a take over the world plot. Like, you know, how would you expect it not to be when it's an alien invasion?
But was it an invasion, or did they just want to like come down here to chill?
I thought he was just escaping at the end, and he was like, "Until next time, Venom, I will be back and in greater numbers."
It's like what's his name from Mission Impossible?
Which one?
Solomon Lane.
Yeah, Solomon Lane.
Solomon Lane, like he just keeps escaping.
He's like a cartoon villain.
Yeah, except this was a cartoon, but like done by like some work experienced kid. You know, like you see on the news these like art things selling for like millions, where they've just got a paintbrush and just slap them all on. That's like the Venom webbing in their fight. It's just like the CGI artist just got like a sword, and they're following his motion capture, and he's just like splatting his hands in the air, and that's where they've decided the webbing is going to also be. And the inside of this hand gesture, there's going to be Tom Hardy and Riz Ahmed. Really poor CGI of Tom Hardy and Riz Ahmed.
We've got to flip this on its head now. We've just had a tagged comment from Aliens saying, "Oh yeah, what was your favorite part about the CGI?" Favorite part?
Favorite part about the computer-generated imagery?
Yes.
Probably the end credits animation, because I knew that at that point it was over.
Oh my god, I wouldn't even know where to start with this question. My favorite part about the CGI.
My favorite part.
It's when the entire CGI in the whole movie is awful. Like, where do you begin? I guess the bit where Venom ran up the skyscraper and kind of perched on the top, maybe.
Oh no!
The
trailer shot was the best bit of CGI.
What, with the whole like face?
The very first time he fully faces up, yeah, that 8 seconds is the most they spent on the CGI because that was in the trailer and they had to market the film.
So I just had another comment. That bit was confusing because the lab claimed to have found the aliens, yet the aliens said it was their plan all along. It was like they didn't even know which story to go with. Maybe it was like the Joker. Maybe this is the influence that Ruben Fleischer talks about. The symbiotes wanted to be captured and locked up in the MCU. MCU? Marvel Cinematic Universe? It all makes sense now.
They just want to break free. And here's us teeing up our Bohemian Rhapsody trailer. There is no plan. The plan was just to kickstart the Venom universe, and they've realized halfway through filming that, oh no, it won't make as much money if it's rated 18. Tom Hardy, we have fucked you over, my friend. Not
Does
that
Sony really look like a
have
guy
a great
with a plan?
track record of losing franchises. We've got one left, guys. It's all the supporting characters in the Spider-Man world.
Aunt May, a special agent Aunt May movie spin-off. Origin story.
I've seen better Aunt May videos on YouTube in the last 2 days.
The first thing I said when this movie started off, and we got the little Sony ping. I think the first thing I said
was a Sony advert.
I was like, "Oh, great, that's an encouraging sign."
It was when they put the Columbia logo up, and you don't have the Danny Elfman music.
Yeah, every time, and I think I'm always going to have that. To be honest, every single time that comes up.
Alien. I love the scene in the hospital where Venom and Eddie freak out because of the loud sound. I don't want to compare it to 1 and 3 again because it's just unfair. That is a character trait of Venom. I mean, I've not had an MRI scan, so I'm not going to lie. I don't know if they're allowed. But it looked better in the trailer where the black stuff was going up his neck. The very first trailer. It just looked like someone put the image on like 50% opacity on Premiere
Pro. Like a
Pro.
flicker effect, wasn't it?
Yeah, like they just flickered it, and whereas my Venom actually has real CGI coming out when the aeroplane, like an aeroplane is not going to be that low in an area like that for that random like 10 seconds. Just my favorite scene of the film. I'm just going to say that as well. What's your favorite scene of the film, Chris?
This is a bad sign right here, where I can't think.
Have you forgotten, or are they just awful?
The one laugh that everyone laughed at in the film, and it's where you've got Eddie Brock in the skyscraper, and he says like, "You need to get out," and he says like, "Jump," and then it crash cuts, and he's like in the corridor, like mundanely walking into an elevator, and Venom just goes pussy. That got the biggest laugh in the audience. I laughed at it, but I was probably like so delirious and just wanting to end my life at that point that I find anything funny at that point. Nicholas put, "I've had an MRI. They are so loud." Okay, I guess that's
because I genuinely didn't know that. One thing I need to talk about the doctor, the new boyfriend guy.
Yeah,
I said this to you before we record. He's the only likable character in the film, and he's meant to be dislikable because he's the protagonist's ex's new boyfriend. So you're meant to like dislike him, but he's genuinely just a really nice guy that's trying to help out, and you don't want to dislike him. And then there was the dog as well. I'm struggling to think of things I like that aren't them. The lobster scene I thought looked absolutely awful. It reminded me of something I've seen in the past. It reminded me of District 9 with the cat food when he starts turning into the thing, and he's just really hungry.
That's what I mean. That stuff could have been, if they'd have dialed that up maybe and made it more like The Fly or something, where like he's
turning, because you don't see him turning into Venom. It just kind of turns up. It's like, Eddie, like really deep voice. Just get the deepest voice you can. It needs to be abundantly clear. It's not Tom Hardy talking.
But they do like this whole thing where Venom is like constantly hungry, he needs sustenance, and like that's when he starts off, and then they kind of drop that and then bring it back at the end. I don't know if that was all the way through. Like when he seems like dead set on the mission to stop Riot, you never see him like going, "Oh, we need to eat."
He needs to eat alive things for petrol.
Yeah,
to carry on being a symbol.
I
just don't. I mean, I'm only going to slag this film off, so it's kind of getting me a point of repeating. One thing I do want to think has this film proved that Venom doesn't have enough source material or material to have his own film / franchise?
I think it does. I think you know, like again, like going back to the Joker, like maybe that's the exception. I think with the Joker, there is something you could do, and has been done. The Killing Joke, for example, like his backstory in that. And I'm guessing some people are probably going to comment and saying that, you know, Venom does have this extensive backstory in the comic books, but I didn't get it in this movie. I don't think you can. And I think this movie has established that the fact that it's 112 minutes doesn't even clock in bang on 2 hours. And the fact that we're saying even under 2 hours, the material felt strained. There are bits that did drag. There isn't much story to tell in this film. I think that the interesting stuff with Venom comes in when you do offset him with Spider-Man, and you have that parallel. You have Spider-Man, you know, degrading and becoming more villainous as he dons this black suit with the symbiote, and then has to overcome, you know, the suit ultimately, and then fight Venom. I think that stuff is much more interesting because it's when you have your hero and villain so closely tied in, you know, psychology and stuff like that. I say it all the time, and it's why Batman's my favorite character, in that his villains have that connection to him in some way, and you could do some really interesting character stuff. When you just take that character on their own, I don't know if you can. And to me, they didn't. Could they have done? You know, if they do release an R-rated cut, I probably would give this movie another go. If there was a way that we could see that original vision, you know, Tom Hardy clearly had enthusiasm for it and stayed with it and believed in it, and probably everyone else did. And then it's just sad that the studio changed it. So who knows what that original film is? Maybe it was really good. Maybe we would be sitting here and saying we've got a great Venom standalone. Bring on Morbius with Jared Honka Leto. But as it is, it's just a forgettable mess of a movie, really.
We've got a couple of comments from Phil in the book orders. We spoke about this on Twitter earlier. So the best scenes of Venom versus the FBI in the lobby of the skyscraper. But the fight at the fight at the end is so messy you can't tell them apart. That's true. Mm-hmm. The skyscraper fight, the FBI kind of just gave up and just stopped watching and like stopped concentrating because I mean, you could see what was going on, but it just looked really cheap and really easy. Then Venom's got plenty if they use it right. Lethal Protector's good. I've got no idea what that is. I'm sorry. Shiver, no idea what that is. Agent Venom, I don't really know what that is. Venom versus Carnage. That basically pulls us into our credit scene. Mm-hmm. That is to me the only thing they can do. So originally it was rumored that Riz Ahmed was going to play Carnage, which is the famous the Red Venom. And then it was going to be Woody Harrelson was announced to play him. Then they pretended they hadn't cast Woody Harrelson when they publicly told them they did. And then Woody Harrelson's basically Ronald McDonald. I know that's how he is in the comics. But because Woody Harrelson just has like the really nice gummy face.
You detailed this to me the day before I went to see it, didn't you? I think, and you had like the leaked scene, and someone had put he looked like Pennywise the clown from it.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked like Pennywise though.
No, it was like, definitely more Ronald McDonald with curly hair.
Yeah, like I mean,
I know what he looks like. And this is kind of tying to tomorrow's review of Johnny English. Remember in the first Johnny English film where he's like coming up with what the criminal looked like, and he says his hair was orange and he had a scar on his cheek in the shape of a banana? I don't know if anyone remembers this. If you've seen Johnny English, you know what I'm talking about. And he comes up with like this computer rendering of what the character would look like. That's what Woody Harrelson looks like at the end of this movie. I swear to God. Not reaching, I know. I'm sorry.
No, but it's a very good point because I love Johnny English one. with Carnage, to me, that's basically the only, in terms of what can translate onto a film.
It's that
Venom versus Carnage. It can translate into a fight scene. A whole film. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, like, because again, like, I don't know much
Carnage.
About the character, but...
So basically, say you've got your three, right? You've got Black Suit Spider-Man. Venom's basically him, but bigger, stronger, bigger, more powerful. Carnage is basically bigger than Venom. He's stronger as well, and he's red. It's basically he's just the bigger, badder version of Venom. To me, he's the only difference with Carnage is that he actually has a human being psycho murderer, like sort of persona. That's what attaches the symbiote to him. I don't think there's enough to warrant a film off. I would be intrigued, to see what they do. I don't think Venom works in a film format by himself.
Well, this is going to be
like, what are you going to do? Bring Anne in? Are we going to bring back women? What was it called?
She Venom.
She Venom.
Is it going to be like
Gwyneth? Disturbing thing I've seen.
Is it going to be like Gwyneth Paltrow in Iron Man 3? Like, saves.
Well, at least that only lasted 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
This was like the most uncomfortable scene in cinema I've seen this year.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because you could tell the actors don't like either.
Yeah.
Phil put the Lethal Protector is what this film's usually based on, using the Life Foundation, Carlton Drake, and the lab. But Venom versus Carnage has Toxin and Spider-Man in it. That's the issue, Phil. Spider-Man won't be in it.
He's a silent guardian, a lethal protector.
I would when I saw Lethal Protector, I kept thinking Lethal Weapon. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I would pay to watch Danny Glover and
Mel
Gibson fight Venom. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen.
That's your Lethal Weapon 5 right there. Reboot, soft reboot.
Venom Carnage. There's now this film's come out. To me, I would bet 100 grand if I had it that Spider-Man will not pop up. Tom Holland will not pop up. Kevin Feige will have orders. He is in a million years not going to allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man Homecoming, like, at least I mean, I'll give the new one a chance. I know I don't like Homecoming. I will give the new film a chance. I'm more than willing to do that. But this this is like DC. Why don't they have some patience? If they were patient, they probably could have naturally got Venom into Spider-Man 4, 5, or 6. But no, it was demanded he be put in Spider-Man 3, and that's what bit the dust. This film, it's demanded that we have Venom in this already. We demand this. Sony's demands are just stupid. I don't know. I've not been this bored and mundane at a cinema in a very long, because there's nothing redeeming. I just felt sad watching it that Tom Hardy wasted so much of his time. Like, it is a time they cast around, but as a lead, I just think it was all a waste of time.
The last point I'll say, though, like, talking about Woody Harrelson, and again, like, I don't know much about the character of Carnage, but I do know that the character is meant to be like this, murderous psychopath. Had this movie have been that R-rated movie we were promised, I think a Carnage movie could have been very interesting. You could have really pushed the boundaries of what you could have got away with. Now we've sort of pulled it back to a PG-13. Can you do character of Carnage justice?
No, it can't. Carnage is like far more violent, more dangerous. It's basically just the very stereotypical. He's bigger, badder, and stronger.
Mm-hmm.
What Venom is to Spider-Man is what Carnage is to Venom. And
we kind of did that in this movie, where Riot is bigger and badder than Venom. Is Carnage just bigger and badder than Riot? Is it just going to be a pecking order of different symbiotes? And
I wonder if the original cut potentially might have had Carnage in it, maybe. And because there was a rumor that Riz Ahmed was going to be Carnage. I mean,
was there any reason given as to why Tom Hardy wanted to get an interview with Carnage at the end?
It would just be because he's a famous murderer. I thought it was going to be a tease towards like something in New York to head back to Spider-Man, but his big interview was with Carnage, which is fine. It teased it up, but then if that's their meeting, that should be the credit scene, right? That should be a pivotal scene in a film.
Yeah. Maybe they have reworked it then. That's my only guess. I don't know, man. I think I've said everything I can.
This has been like the most sort of like peaceful. Like, when we normally hate films together, we have a good time hating them together. Or if we like them, we like them. But this one just seems like we're so deflated.
This is like a slow euthanasia of the Spider-Man franchise, isn't it? Really, that's what it feels like.
The last month, it's really peaked this year. Like, you've had sort of like Tom Holland die in Infinity War, and then you've had the Spider-Man game come out. And that's relaunched the Tobey Maguire trilogy. So a lot of people are starting to rewatch that again now. And that's come back into the meme world. And then this shit house has come out. But then looking forward, we have the actual Spider-Verse. Not Spider-Verse.
That looks really good.
That does look good. And I'm very intrigued to see that. But I'm just going to... Yeah, I'm dead. Phil says Carnage is Venom's son. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
I don't want to know how he has a son.
Well, when we have things like She-Venom, like, anything's possible, right?
But I don't know. It's just How many Venoms are there?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a whole list on
millions,
Wikipedia. You can fall into like a whole rabbit hole of lore, like Venom lore, Spider-Man lore, if you look for it. I just clicked off it straight away because there's a whole list.
Well,
if again, like summing up,
my Venom, his name is Edward Brock Jr., sir. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna say it. Topher Grace is better. Spider-Man 3 is. I'm just gonna say all of this. Now, had Tom Hardy been in Spider-Man 3 10 years ago, yes, perfect film.
He has a reason for wanting to become Venom, although it's very quick, and he's in it for like 15 minutes. He has a reason.
Here's a reason to become, but they build up the symbiote as a character across the film, and they leave it open-ended for him to like kind of come back because you don't really see him die. He just goes to another world.
My favorite comment of the night: the bucket of awesomeness. It's a sexual mitosis, and I think we should end the stream on that right there.
Millions of the species called Clintar.
Sounds like some.
No, I'm
Star Trek lore right here.
That's what when I said that I did some more research on Venom. But again, if that can translate into an hour and a half film, then there's a chance of them doing it. But I really do struggle for anything to happen in this franchise ever again. It might make money, but it's whether they can get that cast to come back or not. Like, if Michelle Williams is not going to come back, they'll probably say, oh, yeah, I got bored and ate her at the start of the film. Oh, but it's going to be hilarious as 100 people.
If this movie is, dead on arrival, say, it makes a fair bit of money, it'll definitely make its budget back.
Sorry, one quick comment. Why did they make it PG-13 just to connect to the MCU? They could have made it rated R because it doesn't make sense. Now, this is actually true because there's no way Marvel would connect it to if it was 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made it PG-13 so Marvel were like, yeah, come and have a look. Marvel, well, no, but it's just rubbish, mate. You can have a good film that's rated PG-13. You can have a good film rated 18. It doesn't matter. Logan is a beautiful film. It is a stunning film. It's rated 18. I'm sure if Hugh Jackman ran Kevin Feige and listen, okay, obviously we know Wolverine's dead anyway, but if Hugh Jackman would ring up, they would have had him in Wolverine and the Heartbeat in the MCU, right?
Mm-hmm. Because
they've made great films with him. I don't think ratings matter. I get where they're coming from, that like if Venom was magically in the MCU, kids have to go out and watch the Tom Hardy Venom film. But I just don't think Venom actually suits the MCU at all. I don't, if you look at the character itself, it doesn't suit the MCU.
I think it's only if you
do a Spider-Man.
You could do like cosmic stuff again, but like only if you do a standalone Spider-Man movie. I think that's the only place for Venom.
The issue with their Spider-Man is they've opted for like really young Spider-Man. He hasn't even got a job with you can't introduce Eddie Brock into the Spider-Man universe without, the like introducing Venom into Spider-Man 3 worked in regards to because they've been going around for like 2 films. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. There
you go. There's your comment from Alien again. Spider-Man would not battle Venom if Venom is good. And that's precisely my point. You make Venom a good guy. I know this is going to stand alone, apparently. If this movie is dead, where does this spell the future of Sony's Spider-Man universe in terms of its movies?
I don't think anyone would care anymore. I mean, they lost the James Bond.
We're still going to have Spider-Man in the MCU, I'm sure of that.
And that's a nice cushy deal. Like, they don't have to do anything. Marvel just take the character, give them money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they get every penny from the Spider-Man solo films, nothing off the Infinity, but like the Avenger ones.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to do any story, any creative, nothing. Just fund the film and they get the money back. It's like doing a bet where you're going to win 4 times as much. They can't do Spider-Man and Venom. But also, how can you can't create Venom and then bring him up to Spider-Man and be like, yo, this is Venom. He's created from you, but we've already decided not to use you. Mm-hmm. So now he's just this random alien. And also, I think the key thing is Spider-Man, all of Spider-Man's characters are all personally like attached to him.
Yeah.
Like, especially a lot of the villains, there are personal attachments that come with that. You can't, if you've already introduced Eddie Brock as a successful journalist, you can't like randomly, unless Peter Parker gets a scholarship deal. Oh no, George, don't give them ideas. Sorry, no.
I think this is going to be another case of, I think this is going to be another case of like the Universal monster series, like The Mummy, how they made that, and then it's pretty much dead. It ultimately depends how much money it makes. If it makes money, they will make another one. I have no doubt about
I
that.
reckon it's going to make 400 mil. I don't think the Chinese will like it. Where they're trying to get money over there, they're trying to big it up. I don't think they'll like it much. I think this will do fine box office. Like it's gonna get good numbers this weekend. This ain't gonna last. I think as we're heading into that season now, you know, it might have a couple of weeks doing well, but Fantastic Beasts is going to squash that in November anyway.
We've got Bohemian Rhapsody as well this month. That will definitely be big.
I think as we're Oscar season starting to come a bit earlier, we've got First Man next week. We've had this week. We've had the Lady Gaga. A Star's Born. I mean, that's made a lot of money. 40 mil for an Oscar film opening weekend is good money. I don't think there'll be many repeat viewings for Venom. I can't see many people going to. It's not like Marvel, you can get it 4 times. This is a one and done, I think, for everyone. A bit like Ant-Man 2.
Yeah.
But no, that's kind of like all my opinions on Venom, I think.
I was just going to reply to Alien's comment. He's put, let's say that Venom in the first hour of the movie was badass, killing loads of people, keeping him like that for the entire movie, then it would have been nice for Marvel to incorporate him. I agree. And maybe that was the original film that we got, the original 40 minutes. Who knows what that 40 minutes is? Maybe we'll get it in somewhat of an extended cut or an unrated cut or whatever it happens to be. But I don't think it's going to be the full amount. And even then, it's still going to be at the core, this movie that we got, maybe with just some added violence in here and there. But that won't be enough to sway me for it to be a great movie. I pretty much said everything about this movie already. Very much a letdown. I'm not angry. I'm not even disappointed. Yeah, I'm in that awkward in between of I just don't care, and that's really, really sad. But at least I did see a good movie this week with A Star Is Born. You can find mine and Tate's review to that. We recorded that earlier today. I will be at the cinema tomorrow for Johnny English Strikes Again. Will it be better or worse than Venom? Find out tomorrow, I guess. In terms of other videos, I really need to get back on the reactions next week. There's a lot I need to catch up with. There's Rocket Man trailer I need to go back to. There's Fantastic Beasts. There's X-Men. And I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more trailers coming out as well. There's Vice as well, the Christian Bale movie, which will probably be up for Oscars. A lot of stuff coming out, and we're getting a lot more movies now. Is it next week we get Halloween, the new one, or is that the week after?
I don't know. I know next week's London Film Festival. And we've got First Man next week actually as well.
Yeah.
Which we'll be getting to. But there is going to be a lot of films coming out over the next couple of months. It's getting is that Oscars ramp, isn't it? We had a really quiet summer. And I've got a feeling that we're going to have a good Oscars year this year. It's going to be very interesting, especially the battle for the battle for Best Actress is done and dusted. The battle for Best Actor, you've got Christian Bale v Bradley Cooper v Ryan Gosling. That's quite a fucking trio. I'm very intrigued.
Our predictions video will be very interesting when we get to that later in a couple of months. Next week, on Wednesday, I'm at a 40th anniversary special rescreening of the original Halloween film, so I might jump on a review for that in anticipation for the new one. And we should hopefully, we need to get it organised, we should hopefully have a battle of brackets at some point towards the end of the month. We're still sorting out dates and everything like that, but it's nice to be getting on one for October. I think that's pretty much everything we can announce right now. So thank you very much to everyone that's been commenting and watching during the stream. It's been great to get your comments and get a conversation going about this thing. But passing over to everyone else now. So get commenting. Did you like Venom? Didn't you like Venom? Anything Spider-Man, Marvel or Sony related, please do let us know. That'll do it for our video right now. And until the next, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.